All right, thanks for joining us here for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast, which in classic Colorado March style, we went from 70 yesterday to the 50s today to snow tonight to 60 this weekend to more snow next week. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. I'm here to try and break all this down for you. And I'll step out of the way so you can take a look at those headlines. So rain in the Denver area first develops this afternoon. We will flip on over to snow later on tonight. Now, the question is when that transition takes place, because that is going to determine how much snow we get and who ends up with those highest amounts. And of course, by the way, here on this segment, it is interactive, so feel free to send in your questions. That said, I'm going to limit it on the amount of questions I answer about how much snow at my house, because I'm going to show you that here in just a second. So if you're wondering how much snow is going to be at your house, I will show you in full detail how much I'm expecting at this point momentarily. Meantime, current temperatures, and this is going to be key here, folks. If you're a bit of a weather buff, obviously I'm one of those. I'm a meteorologist after all. This is the number I'm probably going to keeping the closest eye on for your day today in terms of impacts to the forecast. How warm it gets here in Denver is going to be really critical in determining, first of all, how late it's going to stay all rain, and B, how warm the ground will be. So two things that are in play for tonight. When it starts to snow, it's going to take a little time for it to stick because the ground is warm right now. We're going to have some rain on top of it, so the ground's going to be fairly warm. So even though you'll see snow, it's going to take a while for it to stick later on tonight. And again, how warm it gets today here in Denver is going to be a key determining factor about how long it stays raining, and again, how long it takes for that snow to stick. So with that in mind, I do think we get up into the mid-50s. Rain develops, it's looking a little later now. It looks like it might be more like 3, 4, 5 o'clock when we see that rain first start to develop for us here into the Denver area. Winds on the light side out of the north and the east. That'll give us just enough cold air to flip things over from rain to snow tonight. So tonight we drop down into the 20s. I do think we'll, in some parts of the metro area, get down to 23. I think most of us will end up a little bit higher than that, maybe 25, 26, 27. But again, exactly how cold it gets is going to be very important in determining how much snow we end up with and the timing of that changeover. All right, now that I've been kind of, I think, mentioning a lot of those question marks about this snowstorm, let's get into the nitty-gritty with that forecast. So notice the timing here. We're talking about 6 o'clock. This is around the rush hour where I think we're all rain. I don't think in the Denver area we're looking at too much in the way of issues for the evening commute tonight. I think this should hold off until after the commute, until after sunset, which, as you know now, is now after 7 p.m. So with that later sunset, I think we avoid any real issues in and around the metro area. Exceptions could be as you get on up into the foothills, 7,500 feet or above, where you could be looking at some of those issues. And same for us here along the Palmer Divide, kind of the tippy top of the Palmer Divide. That'd be 7,000 feet where you could be looking at maybe some issues towards the tail end of the commute. But again, maybe I'm getting into too much info for you. Point is, I think we're okay for the commute tonight. Now, when things start to get hairy for us, it's going to be somewhere between probably about 8 and 11 tonight when we flip over from rain to snow. Now, exactly when that changeover takes place is going to be critical to how much snow we get and the impacts on our morning commute. Notice by 1 a.m., it's snowing everywhere. And that snow's going to be really heavy at times for us around midnight. It's going to be coming down here, folks. Maybe talking 2-inch per hour snow rates later on tonight. Then by tomorrow morning, it's done. The snow, or I should say the heavy snow is done. It's still going to be lightly snowing, especially in the foothills and the Palmer Divide. But we are still going to be looking at some snow through the day tomorrow. I don't think it's going to really stick tomorrow because it's going to be way above freezing, high March sun angle. So it'll be snowing on your St. Patrick's Day for your day tomorrow. But what else is new? It won't be as heavy as what we're expecting tonight. The accumulating snow is really tonight. Tonight's the show for us here, folks. So don't want to mislead you. It could be lightly snowing throughout the day tomorrow. I may see an additional inch or two of accumulations on grassy surfaces, but for the most part, the show is tonight. Now, winter storm warnings in red. This would be for Jeffco, for the western suburbs here of Denver, Wheat Ridge, Golden, Arvada, all under a winter storm warning, 6 to 12 inches plus. Somebody in the Divide or the foothills is going to come in with 15, 16 inches. tonight, but Denver 3 to 6 inches. So a very tight gradient in terms of what you can expect in one part of the metro area versus another. So again, I'll break this down. I'll get a little closer on this here in just a second, but wide view, again, big differences between one part of town versus the other. Mountains 4 to 10 inches for us here through the I-70 mountains, so skiers. Some fresh powder for you tomorrow. Wet mountains get a pretty good storm as well. And something that extends down to Walsenburg in Trinidad for our friends out that way. A good 3 to 6 inches for our folks and our friends out in the southern stretch of I-25 here in our wonderful state of Colorado. All right, so as we get later on through today, as I mentioned, we'll start to see those first raindrops. Maybe around that evening commute, you'll maybe start off dry, and then you'll see those raindrops on your windshield as you're driving on home. I think, again, no real issues for us during the commute, unless you're up here into the mountains, other side of the Continental Divide. It's already snowing up there. It's going to keep snowing. But by 9 p.m. tonight, that's when we transition from rain to snow. It'll be from south and west to north and east. So, for example, Highlands Ranch, Evergreen, Morrison, Golden, especially west side of Golden, Boulder, especially west side of Boulder, West Arvada. You will flip over first somewhere between 7 to 10 p.m. Then downtown Denver will flip over somewhere between 8 to 11 tonight. And again, exactly when that transition happens is going to be critical to how much snow we get. Cannot emphasize that enough. So look at this, by the way. Look at what our map's showing here. DIA, it's raining. Downtown Denver, maybe some sleet and some wet snow. And then the south and west side of town, we're talking about maybe very heavy snowfall. So again, very critical forecast here and big differences in a very short distance in terms of what you can expect and when tonight. By tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, this is around midnight, 1 a.m., the heaviest of the snow starts to pull away, but it's still snowing in downtown Denver. I think the heaviest of the snow will be between about 9 and 10 tonight and about 2 and 3 tomorrow morning. That window, that kind of mid-overnight window, is when it's going to be snowing very heavily. And by the way, I mentioned this earlier, that snow, when it first starts to fall, it's probably going to take a bit of time for it to stick on the roadways because the ground is fairly warm, and temperatures were warm today as well. So again, it may take some time for it to stick. But then tomorrow morning, during the commute, it's still going to be snowing here, folks, so just keep that in mind. That said, temperatures will be above freezing. I'm not expecting huge impacts during the day tomorrow. I think the morning commute will be tricky for us throughout the metro area, especially in the Palmer Divide and the foothills. And then we clear things on out by tomorrow night, and we'll be long over and done with the snow. All right, I'll step out of the way. This is based on the initial questions that I'm getting here. I'm going to pull these back up here. I've been seeing some of your questions rolling on in here. And as usual, it's how much snow can I expect at my house? Here's a quick look at what you can expect here as we head over the next little while. I do think we are going to be looking at the heaviest amounts in the foothills, especially 6,500, 7,000 feet or above. So kind of west, notice Boulder here, about 4.3 inches. I wouldn't be surprised Boulder gets a bit more than that, but maybe 6, 7. But you head just west, maybe 10 miles west of Boulder, you get up to 6,000 feet, and that's where you start getting into 8, 9, 10 inches. So kind of know your elevation a little bit. If you pull up your phone, by the way, you can see the compass thing. That'll tell you your elevation. So 6,000 feet, I think, is going to be a pretty magic marker. 6,000 feet or above, you're talking about 6 inches or more. Below 6,000 feet, that's where we're looking at a good 3 to 6 inches worth of snowfall. Palmer Divide, again, about 10 inches for our friends in Castle Rock, 11 inches in Evergreen. This looks about right here, folks. So just kind of take this in, breathe it in, look at it, and that should give you a pretty good idea about what you can expect where you are. So again, this is not exact. I'm going to explain some of the uncertainties in the forecast here in just a second, but this should give you a pretty good idea about what you can wake up to tomorrow morning. And another note here, folks, in downtown Denver, you see the 3.5 inches here in Denver? Not all that's going to stick on the roads. So we're going to get 3.5 inches, say on car tops, on grassy surfaces. We'll probably have an inch or two of slush on the roads. It's going to be a really slushy snow. You know, that perfect snowball kind of snow? Not encouraging snowballs unless safe or whatever. It's that heavy, wet snow that packs perfectly. Great for snowmen, snowballs, that kind of thing. But it's also really heavy to shovel and for the foothills and the divide. Notice that 12 plus inches of heavy, wet snow. Careful shoveling. Folks, if you have health issues, get somebody else to do it. Pay the kid next door $20 or whatever, if that's still a thing. I did that when I was a kid. Pay the kid next door $20 to shovel the snow, because again, that's going to be that really tough to shovel kind of snowfall for tomorrow morning. So just keep that in mind for friends out that way. By the way, if you have any other questions, feel free to roll them on in here, because I'm still getting a lot of those how much snow at my house sorts of questions. Now, here's what we know. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty with this forecast. Here's the reason why. When exactly that changeover takes place. So let's say it takes place at 8 o'clock versus 10 o'clock. That could mean all the difference in, say, Denver getting 5 or 6 inches versus 3 or 4. If that changeover takes place just a bit earlier than we're currently thinking, then that really will boost those totals. And then on the flip side, if it takes a little bit longer, let's say the changeover does take place close to midnight, we may only end up with a slushy inch or two of snowfall here in town. How cold does it get? I was showing you the low, about 23, 24 in Denver. If it stays up by 28, 29, that snowfall will likely accumulate a lot less because of the fact that you're closer to freezing, so you get a higher water content of that snowfall. So again, just things to consider. And then how long does it snow? Normally, we've got a lot of these questions answered this close to a snowstorm. Right now, we have, again, quite a few questions leading into this one. So hopefully that gives you an idea. Again, it's a fairly complicated forecast at this point. So lots of moisture. It will snow. It will start as rainfall. So with that in mind, here's a look at that 7-day forecast. So a good 36, 37 inches for us here in Denver for your Thursday, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Temperatures spike on up into the 60s, I should say, for the weekend ahead. And then early next week, we're talking about those temperatures crashing back down with the potential for more rain and more snowfall. So hopefully that gives you a good idea about what to expect. I think here in Denver, 3 to 6 inches should do it for us. Again, with an asterisk of there's a lot of questions about the forecast at this point. Expect a messy commute tomorrow morning. I think the commute tonight is fine for most of us. And then the Palmer Divide and the foothills, very, very different, as we could be talking about maybe even a foot plus worth of snowfall in the Palmer Divide. So big differences between one side of town versus the other. And that's why I wanted to explain that for you and take my time in doing so. Hopefully that answers a lot of your questions. Stay safe. Have a great rest of your day. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and we'll see you later on this afternoon.